Greetings all, and welcome to Lucas Brews. Now recently we've been having a look at a lot of some of the later BF109 model kits in 72nd scale that have reached the market. But for this video I thought we'd have a look at something a little bit different. Instead, it is the 1972 Heller 1/72nd scale BF109F. And judging by the box art, it looks like it is the tropical version. So this kit is obviously a lot older than the other kits that we've looked at. I thought it would be interesting to see how the technology of moulding these kits has improved over the years, and just have a compare of this to some of the other ones we've looked at that are a bit newer. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the box art itself is quite nice. It's typical of the olden days, nice artistic painted details on the box. And you've got two BF109s in their tropical scheme flying over the desert with a lot of explosions in the background. It all looks quite nice. A little bit of stuff on the back here. A lot of it is in French because Heller is a French company. So yeah, I think it's basically just a list of other products that they have in 72nd scale, which is quite cool. Some of these would be really nice to see. Yeah, so that's it for the box. As for the instructions, in most Heller kits they tend to be alright, although these ones are a little bit crowded, as you can see. Similar to the AZ models, it's all on one sheet, although unlike that it's all split into two basic steps. I say basic, you've kind of got to see where everything fits and then roughly get it all in once, so not the best instructions, in fact probably the worst we've seen so far actually. As you can see, all at once, you've got two halves of wings to join, cockpit going together, you've got a seat, a rear kind of bulkhead, then a armoured panel at the back of the pilot's head, a basic joystick. Oh no, here we go, instrument panel there. It's a little bit tricky to see everything on this because it's all grouped together. Elevators here, got your air intake. I believe you've just got the tropical version's air intake, but we'll have a look at the plastic soon. The spinner. Got to be careful to install that all correctly and not glue the right parts. It doesn't actually tell you which pieces you should and shouldn't glue together. Then you've got landing gear, the control balances, and the tail wheel. So, as you can see, assembly across all these 109s is really quite similar, although this is really compact into one one sheet, and it's really hard to see where everything is. But luckily these are relatively simple kits, so you can generally figure it out on your own. Color codes aren't very clear. I think that's the top and that's the bottom, and then they've done different lines, although it's really hard to see. And it's all in French too, although I won't fault the manufacturer for that, it's just its native language. For the most part, instructions are just above being useless. So I'll have a look at this sprue here that we've got, and that is obviously, as you can tell, the upper and the lower wings. And yeah, it's a little bit old. Obviously age has not been perfectly kind to this kit. As you can see, what we're dealing with here is pretty much entirely raised details and enough rivets to make a train out of. All of the access panels there have pretty basic details. They're just a raised circle. All of the rivet lines are all done, and they're probably way too exaggerated for a 109. As you've seen with all the other kits, a lot of the rivets would have been sunken in, and yeah, because you want a nice clean airframe to get more speed out and less drag, so they wouldn't be raised like this obviously in real life, or at least not to this extent at this scale, but that's another topic for another video. All raised on the upper surface of the wing there, and it's tricky, but you can make out they've done the panel lines that are common on the other 109s, but they're all raised. The only thing that's recessed is the controls are a little bit recessed, and they have actually tried to do something of a fabric texture, but it's pretty basic on the wings themselves. No detail for the inner landing gear bays, but I suppose the aircraft would be on the ground with them open, so you probably wouldn't see them too well either. Moving on, we've got the cockpit here. Again, it's pretty much the same story. All of the details except for the engine cowling access here and the rudder are all raised. Really basic shapes for the access hatches. There's no real detailing on the access hatches and the actual what would you call it, like handles to open them up or anything like that. So detail is pretty Spartan, and yeah, once again a lot of raised rivets all over the place. But for the most part, I have to say the moulding is pretty clean. There's not an awful lot of flashing or anything going on. On the inside here, the only thing you've got is the words Heller, which is the manufacturer obviously, and some nasty sink holes or ejector pin marks inside the cockpit in visible spots. So yeah, next to no interior detailing on the side walls there, which is a bit of a shame, but oh well, we'll forgive it for its age. It's actually got the same number of panel line. It's actually got the same number of pins and holes as the AZ model, and in pretty similar places. You've got one at the tail and one at the opposite corner up by the engine. So it might be similar in that it's tricky to actually get the halves to line up perfectly, but it shouldn't be too hard since there's not a lot of interior detail that might change the shape or make it tricky to fit. And your exhausts are all molded into the engine, so pretty basic, and the details are very, very soft or exaggerated in some cases, or really basic. But it's definitely of its time. The only major big sprue you've got here, or I say big, or the crowded sprue here is for the smaller accessories. So we've got the propeller here, a little bit of flashing, but nothing too extreme that can't be sanded off. Control balances here. Tail wheel, pretty basic detail on that one. Elevators, no recessed detail except for the line where you can make out the elevator from the horizontal stabilizer, and a little bit of detail on the hinges, but nothing really at all, not even any raised rivet lines or rivets themselves. Not sure what these are. These are probably cannons or something. They're very, very basic cylinders. Maybe that's the joystick too, it could be. I'll have to check the part numbers to identify it, but either way, detail really basic. Here is your instrument panel, and they have actually tried to do some detail on it. There's some really bad ejector marks in the middle of it there, and then a lot of raised details, which I don't think they look perfectly accurate. They look a little bit random for a 109 cockpit, but oh well, they've at least tried to do an instrument panel. That's one step above the Airfix 109. Raised detail for the cannon barrel there and the nose, and they've actually done a hole for the barrel, which is pretty impressive for 1970s. Landing gear, it's pretty basic, not a lot of tire tread pattern detailing, and there are rims, but it's yeah, reasonably accurate. I think I've seen some F models have tire trims that look like that, but it's not super accurate, pretty basic as well. No details on the inside of the landing gear bay doors. The struts for the landing gear have no detail either. They're sort of just a cylinder and or two sticks lined together. So really, really basic there. You've actually got a little bit of detailing on the sand filter, but it's not perfect. It's sort of, they've just done some raised ridges. There's no holes or anything like the actual filter would have had. But at least they've given that a go. It will look reasonably alright. The seat itself, which is a single seat, which as you've seen with the other 109 kits from Tamiya and AZ, would have been more of a bucket and then a basic sheet of metal at the back for your back to rest on. Hopefully you've got a parachute to make it a bit more comfortable, so not super accurate for a 109. I don't think they ever had those kind of bucket seats installed in them, but you do see it in a couple kits, so maybe it was a thing for some aircraft. Then you've got the cockpit floor here with your amazingly detailed rudder pedals, and yeah, not sure what this is. I think it's just some sort of bulkhead or something, or maybe a spare part. So yeah, as you can see, really basic details. The canopy itself has come off the sprue, but it actually doesn't look too bad. The plastic's probably about the same thickness as the AZ model, and being square windows on the earlier models, there's less distortion, as you can see. Yeah, and there's actually surprisingly few scratches. There's a couple little nasty knocks here and there, but that's probably more due to the age of the kit rather than any manufacturing defects. The only thing that stands out is they've kind of got a weird ridge on the inside of that rear panel there, which creates a bit of distortion when you look at it from above, but it's pretty subtle. Those are actually not too bad clear parts, especially considering the rest of the kit. And here you have the decals. God knows if they're actually going to be any use. There's no common stencils. You've just got your basic roundels, the markings for White 5, the squadron symbols. So yeah, pretty basic. Don't know if these will actually have survived the last 40 years or so, but never know. Some of the old decals are surprisingly hardy. So this kit is definitely of its time. It's got a lot of features such as the raised panel lines and especially the raised rivets on this aircraft that are a little bit dated. That being said, I was still surprised about the cockpit being of decent quality, especially from an old Heller kit. Compared to the other kits, this definitely does not hold water in terms of its details being accurate and to scale. I'm not a big hater of raised details. I think on some aircraft it looks pretty good, but on the 109, which was pretty cleanly done, I think the raised rivets look a little bit silly. But, oh well, it's of its time, and I'm sure a lot of people have some very fond memories of putting this one together, and yeah, I look forward to still having a go at this one. I'll do a build video on this one eventually. I'm a bit undecided as to whether I will just build it out of the box and accept it for what it is, or whether I'll sand back all of the raised details and redo the recessed panel lines with a scribing tool, which is a mammoth job even for quite a small kit, and I'm not the best at it just yet. But oh well, we'll see how I feel, and maybe I'll do a vote or something on it. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this look at a pretty old Bf 109. I thought it was a bit interesting to compare it to the other kits that we've looked at so far. And it's still funny to me that Airfix have not done a cockpit when even back in the olden days, Heller was still doing it for their basic kits. Thank you very much for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it. If you did, please be sure to leave a like, and please subscribe to the channel to help things out. A huge shout out, as always, to my wonderful patrons for helping me fund buying these kits and making these videos. It wouldn't be possible without you guys, as well as everyone who's been watching. So, thanks again, and until the next video, take care, and model on.